On to talk of the nation. The appointment of a new cabinet by President Museveni this week has dominated public debate. Now, some commentators say the team that has been selected is representative of regional and gender balance. However, other groups like Muslim leaders complained on Eid Day that they got a raw deal. And so tonight our focus is a discussion on how service delivery will be equitably provided, irrespective of tribal or religious biases. And joining me is Mande Akol Amazima, a policy analyst, to discuss more on this. Good evening to you, Mande, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening to you. The pleasure is mine joining you in this section.
All right. Now, the debate following the appointment of the new cabinet has largely focused on who was included and what was left out, with some groups praising the regional and the gender balance, while the Muslim leaders have expressed disappointment over the, representation. But for the ordinary Ugandan struggling with poor roads, crowded hospitals and unemployment, should the conversation be about who got what ministerial post or whether government services are reaching citizens equally?
Yeah, in Africa, people get satisfaction by seeing their own there, regardless of what the person is going to do. That even if you got a very good cabinet, as long as a particular group does not have one of their own there, they will never feel satisfied. Therefore, leaders in Africa, especially presidents, ever after election, they always have a headache of balancing regional representation vis-a-vis service delivery. So in this particular cabinet, you'll see that has come out. It's trying to balance, bring all the regions on board, and also ensuring that he places people he feels can actually deliver to his satisfaction. Yeah. And
now, speaking to that satisfaction, there's also been a long-held belief that if, for instance, you're from a particular part of the country and maybe one of the leaders from your country has taken up, say, a top leadership, it is automatic that things are going to turn around in your area of origin. Is that the case? Is that what usually happens?
That's actually normally what happens, because ideally when you're counting, you start from one. And most people, when they are doing things, they begin from their own area. That is why actually in Africa, politics say do or die, because services, resources are directed towards where people come from. But that said, it also depends on the economic situation. Because ideally there are times you find that people get into power and there are a lot of donations coming in. The economy is doing well. But at times you find that there are aid cuts and maybe the economy is not doing well and somebody may not really deliver to the expectation of the people.
I wanted us to break it down further on that very particular point. You said that is what usually happens. But we see some regions that have, top position ministers, and still their areas are struggling with poor service delivery. And so if you have said that is what usually happens, that top leaders improve service deliveries in their districts, what are some of those districts? What areas do you think this has actually happened?
No, I'll give an example of Bwera and Kasese, that when Dr. Crispus Chonga was Minister of Health, they got a hospital. And I believe that was out of actually his influence. You remember when the later Cosmas Adiebo was the Prime Minister, the university for the first time, Northern Uganda got a university. So these have always happened, that really when people come into power, they will try to look at first their home area, and they maybe look at, in case something comes in, they always squeeze in their area.
But we still have areas that are struggling with service issues with healthcare, schools. We're looking at the Karamoja sub-region. Recently, there were even reports of the ministers themselves, infringing on items that were meant for these people in the vulnerable areas.
Yeah, well, that also can be attributed to characters of particular people, because there are people who may also not mind developing their areas, but also the resources. At times the resources are not enough to bring out the development that everybody can see. But the bottom line is that once somebody comes from a particular area, that area in one way or the other will have an advantage over the others. Either it could be in terms of placement for their people, in terms of lobbying for projects, in terms of also adding maybe budgetary allocations, lobbying for more budgetary allocations for projects directed towards that particular area.
But you find that this is tied to a tribe or a religion, because we did see, the Muslim community during Eid saying that they do not have representatives on the cabinet, and yet they, as a religion, they know the nitty-gritties of how to fight corruption. And so how then can the government announce, the allocation and all these developments without having that element tied, to a particular group?
Yeah, and unfortunately, in Africa, and of course with Uganda, not an exception, people get satisfaction more in seeing their person on the high table than the services delivered. And to our Muslim friends is that they should also participate in elections, because let's look at how many Muslims have been elected. You find that a few Muslim MPs were elected in Buganda, in Busoga, and maybe West Nile. So you find that, for example, in Western Uganda, you look at the Rwenzori region, Toro, Chigezi, you may hardly find a Muslim member of parliament. So the Muslim leadership in Uganda should encourage more of the people to really come out to participate in elections, and also vote for people who really actually can attract the attention of the appointing authority, so that they can really be appointed in various positions. Yeah, like coming up with a cabinet is not something that, because we are about 65 communities in Uganda, we have so many religions, therefore, and the slots are about 80. So one has to balance between all that vis-a-vis who is best placed to actually deliver on a particular, in a particular docket here.
Okay, and so now for the new cabinet, looking at what should the first 100 days of the new cabinet look like, if it is, serious about the public confidence in them, and not just looking at, their tribe or their identity or their religion?
The first 100 days, we expect them to put in use the slogan, Chisanja no sleep. We need to see them really working towards that. That actually what was maybe these delays in the ministries, delays in the government are not there. Things that had maybe stalled for years, we should actually be seeing them moving. So this is something that we should see in the 100 days. The 100 days, they talked about the fight against corruption. It shouldn't stop at at the former Speaker of Parliament. Let us see more people really being told to account for whatever they did. Let us see that it shouldn't be seen as if it is selective justice. Let us see that perhaps whoever was mentioned either in Mabati or in whatever scandals, that now the law is really coming for them, and that so that we can really see that the justice is being served to the wananchi.
Okay, and then finally, 5 years from now, what should Ugandans use as the yardstick for judging whether this cabinet has succeeded? Or should it be the diversity of those appointed, or measurable improvements in service delivery?
After 5 years, we should be looking at measurable improvements in service delivery. Our hospitals, the quality of the hospitals, the quality of our health service, the quality of our education, but also livelihood, the economy. Yeah, the economy should be doing well. We should see more employment opportunities for the young people. We should see our education also being meaningful, that people can really finish school and be able to do something for themselves. We should also see the country being more stable and more united, because every other time we come out of an election, we are always divided. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mande Akol Amazima, a policy analyst. Thank you for joining us tonight. It is a pleasure to have you.